A customer just bought your product. They get your confirmation email. And now what happens? In today's episode, we're going to talk about the very important system known as customer onboarding. And if you don't have this system in place, you are losing people through the revolving door, and you probably have a retention problem. In today's episode, we're going to talk about how to fix this. Are you ready? Let's get started.
Hey there, this is Corinna Bench, and welcome to the My Digital Farmer podcast. In today's market, it's not enough to just grow your product. You've got to know how to sell it too. Welcome to the My Digital Farmer podcast, where we reveal online marketing strategies and tips to help farmers like you get better and more confident at marketing. Learn how to find more customers, increase your sales, and build a strong brand for your farm. Let's start the show.
Well, welcome to episode 256 of the My Digital Farmer podcast. I am your host, Corinna Bench, one of the farmers at Shared Legacy Farms out in Elmore, Ohio. I'm also the founder of MyDigitalFarmer.com, which is all about trying to help other farmers like you get more confident in your marketing and sales strategy so that you can grow a profitable farm business. How's everyone doing today? Welcome back to the show to all of my huge fans, regular listeners. I'm glad you're here. And if you are a rookie to the podcast, welcome. Make sure that you subscribe to the show and go check out some of my back episodes. I always tell people to check out the first 10 because I designed them to be an onboarding ramp into the marketing space. Another great place to go if you just want to learn the lingo of farm marketing is to get onto my email list, because when you do, I'm going to send you an email twice a week for like 3 months, and it's basically going to walk you through the jungle of marketing lingo, and it's going to be such an education. It's so good. I get a ton of great feedback on it. So to subscribe to that, go to mydigitalfarmer.com/subscribe. It's free, and it's going to be immensely helpful. Today's episode is sponsored by my friends at LocalLine. Make the switch to LocalLine and scale your farm business. LocalLine is the all-in-one sales platform for farmers and food hubs. Increase your sales and streamline your processes with features including e-commerce, inventory management, subscriptions, online payments, price lists, and more. Now, unlike many generic e-commerce platforms, LocalLine is actually built for selling local food online. So whether you're a CSA farmer like us, or you sell meat, or you run a food hub, or you sell wholesale, or offer a herd share, LocalLine has the tools and features that you'll need to succeed. Subscriptions start as low as $49 a month with no setup fees, and there are no sales percentages. Plus, if you join LocalLine today, your onboarding manager will help get your storefront migrated at no cost. You'll be up and running in no time. And you guys, their service is outstanding. Bonus, as a podcast listener, LocalLine is also offering a free premium feature for 1 year with your subscription when you use my coupon code MDF2024. So any premium feature that you want, you get to choose. Make the switch today. Go to mydigitalfarmer.com/LocalLine and then enter in that coupon code MDF2024 to get that free premium feature. And now, back to the show. Today's podcast episode topic was inspired by something that happened to me this week. And I love when I can tell a story that functions as a metaphor or as a mirror of a marketing lesson. It's such a great example. And I can't wait to kind of tease out some of the learnings that came from this experience. So let me tell you what happened. My youngest son, Josiah, he's in 7th grade, and he is going to be trying out for the middle school track team. Actually, it starts today. And we just found this out a few days ago, that track season is officially starting. And it set a whole flurry of events into motion here at the house because we told our son Josiah, we've always told him that we expect him to be a part of one formal sport at the school one time in his career. And that we wanted it to happen before the end of his 8th grade year. Now, my son Josiah is not really into sports. He's never been a part of any kind of sport. Like we've never done like the little leagues or the soccer tournaments or the t-ball, like nothing. No football, nothing. He probably could be a football player, but he's just never shown a ton of interest in sports. But we wanted as parents to give him this experience because we know it's important to have a team experience. We think there's a lot of value in doing it at least once, doing hard things and showing that we can do them and that we know there's something he's going to learn from this experience. So he's been resistant. He's not actively going out, finding out when does track season start. Mom, make sure we sign up. Okay, that is not our son Josiah. We really have had to, as parents, be the proactive ones to make sure that this happens. So Kurt and I have been kind of watching from the sidelines. We knew that track season happened in the spring. We didn't exactly know when, and it's been on our radar. Well, all of a sudden, like a few days ago, there was a sense of urgency, like, oh my gosh, I think it's happening now. Like high schoolers are beginning to practice track. And did we miss the sign up? And we're asking Josiah, what's going on with track? And of course, he's hemming and hawing and not exactly making it easy for us to find all this stuff out. So we had to actually go and figure out what are the first steps involved in getting my son onto the track team. And as a parent, I had, some very basic questions like, when is the first day of practice? Are there forms we have to fill out? Does it cost anything? How do we get uniforms? Does he need to buy equipment or certain kinds of shoes? Is he going to get to pick what events he wants to do? How many events does he do? I've never done track, so I don't even know like what it means to have track practice. Like, how does a practice even get structured? And some of these questions were questions I knew my son had. And I felt like, man, if we could just answer some of this stuff for him, it might help him overcome some of his objections and his hesitations and fears about doing a sport for the first time. And as I was trying to find this stuff out, I was running into walls. It was just, I figured it out eventually, but it was just hard. I had to call the school, ask the secretary, like, how do we get him signed up for track? Who is the track coach? Like, can you, set me up with him? What, I have to get a physical? Oh, okay. Well, I better throw that together in the next few days, right? There were just these chain of events that had to happen if you wanted to join the team. And yet there wasn't anywhere in the communication process online, on the website, that explained how to do it for a first-time parent. Now, I might be unusual. Maybe most parents in our district have been taking their kids to Little League and going through this whole soccer, baseball, football process multiple times. And this is really easy for them. But for a person like me who's brand new, there wasn't really a roadmap to follow. And I just found myself reflecting on the process like, this is terrible. This is a terrible process for recruiting new athletes into the program because it's not clear what you're supposed to do. And once you show up at the parent meeting, like, there's still a whole bunch of questions. They answer a bunch of questions there, but it would have been helpful to have some of this before the parent meeting, right? So I wanted to do a episode today using this kind of story as an illustration because I think it's a great example of customer onboarding that was not done well in this case. Now I know like track isn't like a product really, but it's kind of like very similar to having a product in a farm business. I was the customer. I wanted to sign my son up for this program, and I was encountering difficulties, number one, in even figuring out how to quote unquote buy the product or purchase the product. But then once I signed up and said, okay, here's his form, here's his physical, here's the $75 fee, then I was sitting there for a couple of days wondering, okay, now what? Is somebody going to reach out to me? Is somebody going to tell me when the first day practice is? Can you connect me with the coach? What happens next? And I really felt in the dark. And today I want to ask you to think about look through the lens of your business and ask yourself, are my customers experiencing something similar once they purchase my product? What does my customer onboarding process look like? When a person comes to my online store and buys the CSA share and they get the confirmation email, what happens then? Is there a black hole where they sit and wait in darkness for weeks and weeks until they know what's going on? Or is there a process that maps it out for them and says, okay, we're so glad you're here. Here's the next thing you need to do. And now here's the next thing you need to do. Or if somebody were to buy a side of beef from you and purchase that either in person or on the phone or online through your store, what happens next? How do you hold their hand and take them to the next step? I was thinking about this metaphor of the yellow brick road. So all of you who have ever seen the movie The Wizard of Oz, and you know that Dorothy finds her way to the land of Oz by following this yellow brick road. And she's told, just stay on the yellow brick road and it will take you all the way there. And as long as you stay on the road, you'll find it. And I thought to myself, what a great metaphor for what we need to be doing as a business owner. Once a person buys our product, we have to have a yellow brick road paved out for them that makes it very clear, here's what you do next. And today I want to ask you, do you have a yellow brick road? What are the products in your product suite that would probably require or would benefit from having a yellow brick road behind them? I don't know if we always take on this mantle as a business owner. I think we don't always realize that we need to be a tour guide. I think we just think, oh, I'm going to grow the product and I'm going to sell it and then I'm done and I can pass it off and say, good luck, hope you figure this out. I know a lot of farms that do that. We used to do that. But I'm here to tell you that if you embrace the role of being the yellow brick road, being the tour guide and saying, walk this way, I have the exact path for you to get you to where you need to go, you will create more loyal clients and you will also create more repeat clients. Because when they have a great customer onboarding experience and they know what's going on and they feel well taken care of and there isn't confusion, they're more likely to have a good experience. And they're less likely to have those frustrating moments like I'm having right now with the track team, like not knowing exactly what's going on and having to just kind of play it by ear day to day. Like that's not a fun space for a type A person like me to be. So here are some of the things that I want you to be aware of as you're looking through the lens of your product suite right now. Okay, so some of you might have like agritourism. Some of you might have U-Picks. You might have retail cuts that you sell in an online store or in a farmer's market. That might be your primary outlet. You might be a CSA like me, where it's a subscription, or a flower share. Whatever it is, maybe you do weddings. Whatever it is, I want you to think about that. And I want you to ask yourself, does this product, does it lend itself to an onboarding process after the person buys? What am I doing to communicate the next step to my client? And hopefully you have at least something there, but maybe, just maybe, you could be adding a few more elements that would make the journey so much more pleasurable for your client, and they'll be more likely to refer you to future people and come back and purchase again. So here are some of the things that kind of made a quick list here of the things that I think fall into the category of customer onboarding. And as you look at the next few months, as we start to gear up here, at least in North America, for the farm season, spring is upon us, and this is the time when we want to be putting these systems into place so that when it comes time to actually creating the product and selling it, we've got that fulfillment piece, that customer onboarding piece already set up in motion, and all it has to do is fire and trigger, okay? So one of the most obvious things that I think needs to be in a customer onboarding path after a person purchases is a communication of fulfillment details and logistics, right? So if you're delivering this, like, when can they expect it to arrive? Do you have a process in place for communicating, hey, this is the day you come pick up. It's in the confirmation email. Or maybe it comes out as a text message. Or here is a key date or deadline that you need to hit. Make sure that you pay your final deposit for your CSA on this date. Like, when does that piece of information get communicated again? Or, hey, this is how you can get into our CSA community on Facebook, because we want to make sure you're in the group so we can be communicating with you. Here's how you join, right? There are some of these like logistics. How do you get the actual product into your hands? What's the next step that you need to do to actually move forward with that? So I feel like that's a whole category in and of itself. And if your product is the kind of product that requires that information, then creating some kind of a mechanism that's going to communicate that you can repeat and reuse over and over again is vitally important. I'm thinking of like people who sell a side of beef, for instance, and there's a whole process, right? When someone says, hey, I want a half hog or whatever, like, you've got to meet up with them. You've got to talk them through the cut list. You've got to explain to them all the different details of pricing and what they can expect to pay and when you're actually going to deliver or have the product available to them, how big their freezer is going to need to be, right? Some of this stuff for a brand new person, you can't assume that they're going to know that. And there has to be a formal process where this gets communicated. So that's kind of the first topic I wanted to bring up here, is to think about fulfillment details and logistics. The second category that I like to kind of put in customer onboarding would be what I call the success path. And this is where you're thinking about, what does my client need to know to actually successfully use the product? So they get it in their hands, but do they know how to utilize it and cook it so that they don't waste it, or they can actually make something delicious out of it? I'm thinking again of all of us vegetable growers and even meat producers. Like, some of you have cuts of meat that people maybe don't know what to do with. Like, in my recent delivery of a side of beef, we had some packages that were called boiling beef. Like, that's what it was labeled, boiling beef. And they sat in my freezer for the longest time because I'm like, I don't know what that is. What is boiling beef? And I eventually looked it up, and I just used it as like, stew meat. But in the vegetable space, like, there are vegetables that people struggle with, like eggplant is one that comes to mind. And in the CSA world, when we give that to people, we know that they're going to need some major support on some of these less popular vegetables, or they're going to just compost it and feel like this was a waste of my money. So as we think about our product, like, what does a customer need to know first to actually start using it right away and be successful with it? I like to make a quick list of 5 things. Can you come up with 5 things that you feel like your first-time client needs to learn how to do to make the most of the product you just sold them? Don't assume that they know how to use it. Another thing you could kind of lump into this category is what I would call a quick win. So out of all the things that you could teach someone, about how to use your product, what are like the 2 or 3 that rise to the top that are fairly simple to do and yet bring a high sense of reward, right? Where the person does it and they're like, wow, that was cool. Like that quick win sort of experience is very powerful, because when you can deliver those on the front end after a person is purchased, then they're going to feel really good about their buying decision. They won't have that buyer's remorse. So the more quick wins you can give on the front end, the better. And, if you don't strategically think about that, you're less likely to execute and deliver the quick win. So this is another fun one to brainstorm. I want to encourage you to think about, can I make a list of 5 things that if I had to teach somebody the top 5 ways to use this product, or things that I know people struggle with, what would they be? And then just create some kind of an onboarding education process that will do that. One of the things I want to point out here is that this is really getting at, why did the person actually buy your product? And sometimes I think we believe it's because they just wanted the thing itself. Oh, my people like fresh vegetables. But I think the vegetables are a means to an end. What my customers actually want is the transformation on the other side. They want to try new foods. They want to feel powerful in the kitchen. They want to feel like they cooked an amazing, healthy meal for their family and they got this affirmation for it. They want to grow as a home chef and experiment. At least that's what my people want. And so if I just give them the vegetables, but I don't show them how to get to that transformation place, then they won't get there, right? So I want to try and brainstorm some ways that I can make it more likely that they'll get to the other side, get to their promised land. And that's something that needs to be in my onboarding, because I can't assume that they're going to find their way there on their own. Today's podcast is sponsored by Farm Marketing School. This is my monthly membership where farmers can come in and build marketing assets one at a time in special 30-day build projects that I've created for you. Right now, there are like 8 projects inside of Farm Marketing School, and every month a new one gets added, and you basically subscribe for 30 days, or you can stay in for a couple months or 3 months. You can stay in the whole year. But what you're doing is you go inside and you decide, this is the project that I want to work on. You take the class, the workshop class that's recorded, you just watch it, and then you build it yourself. So this is the DIY version of Accelerator. There's no coaching element or mastermind or Zoom meetups. It's just you going in there, watching the class that the accelerators saw live with me, and then working on it on your own. So if you're a DIY type of person and you think you can do it yourself, this is an amazing resource. There are projects in there for how to build a promotion plan, how to build your email nurture sequence, how to write a great weekly email, how to build the website homepage messaging, what goes on that homepage, how to build a lead magnet, and more. So if you want to see what's in the Farm Marketing School, you can head to mydigitalfarmer.com/FMS. And I encourage you to subscribe for 1 month. Check it out. I have a whole onboarding, like a crash course in marketing, that I encourage you to take in your first week. There's an assessment inside of there that's going to help you know which elements you should build first. It's so good, and I would love it if you would give it a shot for a month. Let me know what you think, and if you decide you like it, you can stay in there for several months in the off season and get a ton of your marketing stuff done. A couple of other things that you could be brainstorming as you think about an onboarding process is mistakes that you see your past clients making, and kind of pulling back the curtain and telling your future clients, hey, here's what to watch out for. Here are common roadblocks that people run into. Here are common mistakes people make. And I'm going to let you know what they are so that you don't make them, so that you don't waste time or waste resources falling into those holes. That's also another sort of filter that you could use to try and figure out what would be in my onboarding content plan. For us, one of the things that we talk about a lot on the front end of our onboarding is storage stuff. Like, hey, all of you who have carrots, who get our awesome carrots with tops, Don't make the mistake of leaving those tops on your carrots, because if you do, your carrots are going to get soft. And everybody makes this mistake early on as a rookie. And we don't want you to, because those carrots are so premium. So here's what you need to do. Chop the tops off as soon as you get home, right? Something like that functions as a quick win as well. It kind of makes them feel like an insider, and it protects them from making a mistake that they're going to regret later, right? So what are those things for you? And consider, is that something that should be a part of your onboarding plan? And then another final thing to think about here is when you're onboarding is how can you usher your new client into your community? If you have a way of creating a community among all of your followers and people, giving them an on-ramp into that community is so powerful. We have a Facebook group for our CSA members. It's rockin' awesome. And I want my people inside there because I know how valuable it is. I know that when they start to connect with one another and learn from each other, then they grow even faster as a foodie. And that's what I want for them. So I tell them over and over again, here's the link, get into our Facebook group. If you're on Facebook, and not everybody is, I know that, but if you're on Facebook, come into our community. This is where we do our challenges. This is where we have fun and contests and all of that and announcements. Come into our community, meet other people, learn from each other, share your wisdom, share your ideas, be inspiring, be inspired, right? So if you have the ability to connect people to a community, that's going to make them latch on and become loyal to your brand for life. And so that should definitely be something that you are encouraging them to do as onboarding. Okay, so those were sort of the categories that I want you to think about as you're brainstorming. What do I need to have in my onboarding process for my particular products? And depending on what your products are, you might have different needs. You might have to have several onboarding paths if you have multiple outlets in your business. But this is so, so important. You've got to spoon feed this to your clients because they don't know. And here's why this is also so important, because retention rises and falls on customer onboarding, on this excite phase step after the purchase. If you are having retention issues in your business, it may very well be because you don't have a strong onboarding process. And I just want you to test it. Just test creating some kind of an onboarding path and a success path structure and just see if that doesn't solve the problem. Because that's what solved the problem for us with our CSA. Our retention rose huge amounts, like 10, 15 percentage points in 1 year when we paid attention to the customer success path and really focused on customer onboarding. We built the system once, and now we just rinse and repeat it. So yeah, there is an outlay of time and energy when you do it the first time, but then you can just repurpose it from year to year. Now, the sequence of your onboarding does matter. I wanted to make sure I brought that up because there's a lot of things that you could possibly teach them or tell them, but pay attention to what is the thing they need to know next. Not step 7, but what is step 1? And start there and then slowly kind of dabble it out. I remember when my son was going to go to a 6th grade winter camp at school, and we had a parent meeting for it early on in the year. And they laid out all this information on us. It was almost overwhelming. And I remember at that meeting, they were telling us how to make sure that when the kids get dropped off at the bus, that they bring their luggage over to a certain area. And I remember when she was telling me that, I'm like, are you kidding me? Winter camp is in like 5 months, and this is the intro meeting for it. And you're telling me that detail about where to bring stuff for the bus, like right now? Like, that's not something I need to know right now. That's a detail you drop 5 days before in a separate email, right? So that's sort of an example, a silly example, but be thinking about all the stuff you want to tell them, but you don't have to lay it all on them. You really only have to give them the most important things, put it in a sequence, and put it in the right order and drip it out like that. Now, I also just want to bring up today that there are multiple channels that you can put this onboarding on, because that's probably your next question. Like, how do I actually communicate this? What does that look like? And there isn't one best right way to do it. There's lots of different ways. You can do one, you can do 2 or 3 of these. I like to have a few going at the same time to layer them, because people aren't always opening every single email, right? And so if this information is in multiple places over the course of multiple weeks, they have a greater chance of discovering it. So here are some places where you could be putting your onboarding path. A very simple, easy place would just be to have a website page where you've got this listed. Maybe it's just kind of your top 5 things they need to know, or this is the process. You can have it all spelled out. If that's just the easiest thing you can do, and then you can just point people to that page to see, here's how it works to pick up a side of beef. It's all there. Just go there, and every time someone asks, you just send them to that website. You could also have it be a part of an email sequence. So once a person gets their confirmation email that they've purchased the product, it could trigger an autoresponder email sequence that you have pre-written. That's what we do for our CSA and for our CSA sampler trial memberships as well. Those were written once, and I tweak them once a year. But that way I know that everybody who signs up is getting the same exact message in the same exact order at a prescribed time. And I can feel good about knowing that all those things that I just talked through, those categories, I was thoughtful about, okay, I can't talk about all that stuff, but what are things I want to tell them? And then I can make sure that they go into that email sequence. That onboarding sequence, by the way, has incredibly high open rates. So I just want to encourage you, like when your people are signed up, they're excited to be your customer, and they actually want the guidance and the next steps. So they're going to open those emails. Another channel for onboarding could be using SMS text alerts. I know that my affiliate partner, Citizen Salmon Alaska, will send out a text to my customers once he ships their salmon from Alaska. And that's brilliant, right? Like, my customers are obviously concerned that they get this product home and that it's frozen solid when they arrive. They want to be there as soon as it gets there so they can get it into their freezer. This is the kind of financial investment that they're worried about. And so to let your customer know, hey, it's on its way, it's going to arrive by 3 p.m. on Tuesday, now that customer has a sense of empowerment. Like, I have to make sure I'm home at this time so that I can get it into the freezer, right? So that would be a great example of a kind of mechanism that was put in place for customer onboarding that allows the customer to feel confident that they know what's going on and what they need to do for their next step. A Facebook group onboarding season is another way that we do onboarding. There's a period of time for about 4 weeks, beginning of June through early part of July, where I ask my CSA coach, Katie, to create a process, an onboarding process for my customers. Now, a lot of the people in that group have been in my CSA for a long time. They're not necessarily going to benefit from the onboarding content, but maybe 20% of the people are new. And so I want to make sure that there is a path for them to follow. So she has a curriculum that she's been kind of using the last few years. It's very similar from year to year. And I give her complete control over that and say, here's the goal. I just need you to make sure they know what the heck is going on and that they have these quick wins, teach them the most important things, make sure they learn the lingo, make sure they feel like they're a part of the community. And then it's her job to figure out what is it that I'm going to drop into this Facebook group. And she'll go in and find old videos from our YouTube channel or from inside of our academy, and she'll link them up into the group and coach people like, hey, this is something you need to know if you're new. And so that might be something that resonates with you if you have a community like that, or even if you just want to use your normal public-facing social media pages, that you could have a period of time around a launch period or when a product typically starts where you provide additional content that's essentially designed to onboard people into being successful with it. For some of you, a member agreement or maybe a proposal would function as a form of onboarding. I'm thinking of those of you who might do like custom wedding flowers, or maybe you have a rental space for an event and you have to have a formal agreement and understanding with your client. That's going to make them feel secure that you know what you're doing and that there are milestones that have to be hit and there are deadlines that have to be crossed. And when they see the plan all mapped out, that essentially functions as a form of onboarding into the process. So that is one option as well. Some of you might be using phone calls as customer onboarding. Again, if you do sides of beef or a half hog or whatever, maybe the way you like to do that is by calling all of your clients and walking them through the process. And you have periodic checkpoint dates that you do that with each of those people. And you let them know, okay, here's the next time we're going to meet. Here's the next piece of information we'll pass on. And so you can just map that out for people. I mean, it's just 2 calls and that is your process. A handbook or a beginner's guide to XYZ is another way you can get across customer onboarding. We have something called the Beginner's Guide to CSA, which is this beautiful, so well-written like document that I made on Canva. And we give it to all of our brand new CSA members after they sign up. It's in the onboarding email sequence. And I basically say, look, there's a lot that I could show you, but here's sort of the beginner's guide. You can skim this in 5 minutes and it's going to give you the most important stuff. And I love having something like that. So if your product lends itself to creating a beginner's guide, you can deliver that as part of the process. Or a CSA handbook is another example. Most CSA farms have a member agreement or a CSA handbook or both. And at some point in the process, it is passed out to everyone in the community and it is expected that, hey, you know what's in here because this is the policies and procedures that we run by and we need you to abide by them. So creating a handbook so that that can actually happen is super, super helpful. I will put a link in the show notes today for my sample CSA handbook. If you want to actually get the one that we used last year, you can just use it as a guide to write your own. Feel free to copy it and make it a model. I'm also going to share the CSA Success Guide with you because it's so good. And this is actually one of the few digital products that I sell as a Canva template. I've had a lot of CSA farmers purchase it because they can go in and just change out the graphic or the images, or you can add a page or delete a page or put a different picture. It's called the Tips and Tricks for CSA Success. And I highly recommend it. It's at mydigitalfarmer.com/CSA Success. And that's where you can find it. I'll put the link in the show notes too. But that's another resource that you can use. So if you're like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. I'd love a beginner's guide to CSA, but I don't have time to write one. Well, I've already written one. You can just use mine and maybe take like 30 minutes to customize it for you, and then you'll have it ready. So it's totally worth it. A YouTube playlist could also function as a customer onboarding tool. I did a whole episode about YouTube, episode 252. So I'm going to refer you to that. It was a few weeks ago. But if you are already making videos, you can kind of stitch those together into a playlist and then send people there once they've signed up and say, hey, go watch these videos if you want to learn how to, use the different cuts of meat that are in your side of beef. I've got the top 5 uses in there or whatever, right? So think about how could a YouTube playlist possibly help you? Maybe it's just a supplement, but it could be something else that's out there. And then finally, I just wanted to bring up the idea of using the 3-step plan as a framework to help you here too. A lot of times when a person first joins a CSA, they might feel a little like, oh my gosh, there's so many things. Can you break it down into 3 steps and then just give them a 3-step plan somewhere in your messaging, whether it's in an email, whether it's on a website, but just structuring the onboarding into 3 steps, figuring out how to only make it 3 steps. That's kind of tricky, right? But our brains like to think in threes. And that's kind of another filter to look at this through. And then just everywhere you go, you're just telling people the 3-step plan over and over again. 3-step plan, 3-step plan. Here's what you do first, second, third, and that'll get you close enough. Okay, so that was a bunch of suggestions for the different ways you could package your onboarding. Please don't feel like you have to do them all. I'd say pick one and let it be your major form of communication. But, if you have a few running at the same time, I think that helps. Those were just meant to inspire you. So today, I just want you, let's just kind of wrap this up. I want you to think about how many of your clients are, purchase your product, but then aren't experiencing results or aren't taking action because they're just not sure what they're supposed to do next. And maybe some of them are then experiencing disappointment or frustration with your product, or it's not working. And it's just because no one gave them an onboarding process. No one told them, well, you got to go buy track shoes and you got to fill out the physical next. And then after that, you have to show up at practice on March 6th at 5 p.m., right? Sometimes we just need to be really specific. And if we haven't done our due diligence and given someone the plan and mapped it out for them, then of course they're going to be confused. Of course they're going to drop the ball. Of course they're going to feel like a failure with your product. So don't just sell your customers the thing and feel like you're done and leave them holding the bag and say, good luck, figure it out. Because if you do that, you're going to lose a lot of people out the back door, right? If you can ace customer onboarding this year, if you can decide, what if you were to test this and just say, there's a lot of stuff I could do in marketing, but what if this year I'm going to actually focus on the onboarding and I'm going to close that revolving door problem that I have? Because my friends, if you do focus on onboarding and if you ace this, they will come back. They will buy again. You will have empowered them, right? I can almost guarantee this. If you're having a retention issue, I'm almost certain that it's a customer onboarding problem. And if you were to focus on this for a season and close up that hole, you're going to see some big results. When we first started dealing with our retention issues in our CSA, I took this leap of faith and I chose to focus on the customer onboarding email sequence first. Before I built my lead magnet, before I built my sales sequence, I built the customer onboarding sequence because I wanted to plug the hole. I didn't want to do all this work of finding leads and getting them in the pipeline and getting them to finally buy, only to have them leave because they didn't have a good experience with my product. I said, I need to figure out a way to make sure that my fulfillment is awesome and my onboarding is awesome because I start at the bottom of that funnel, I plug that hole, and then I work my way up and start building assets closer to the top. So just ponder that and see if that's resonating with you. And I want to challenge you to create a plan for onboarding your clients into your products. What is the obvious next step? If you had to lay out your yellow brick road to Oz, what would you put on the road? Map out the journey this week. That's my homework assignment for you. I want you to come up with 3 to 5 steps that can be on your yellow brick road. What does your customer require of you? Figure that out, lay it out in a path, put some structure around it, whether it's an email sequence, whether you choose to do it through text alerts or a handbook or a phone call or whatever, you decide. But create some kind of a structure and test it out and see if it doesn't help your retention. Now, before I let you go, I want to let you know I have some resources that could help you get this done. First of all, there's Farm Marketing School, which is my online membership. And you could join Farm Marketing School for 1 month and go inside and take the customer onboarding email sequence project. In 30 days, I coach you through how to write that email sequence that's going to help you figure out what needs to be in your onboarding. Go in there, take that one project, get it done, then you can cancel your membership. Okay, so if you're like intrigued by the email sequence, that is a resource that's going to help you get it done. You'll also see my sample of my email sequence. Okay, so that's kind of option one. The other option, I mentioned it earlier, was my CSA tips and tricks Canva template, e-guide, whatever. This is that little magazine that I give to my CSA members when they sign up for the first time. And you can get the template. It's the one that I use, and you'll get the actual template. You can go in and customize it then, or you can use it as is. Hopefully you'll change the logo at least. But you can get that at mydigitalfarmer.com/CSA success. If you are a vegetable CSA, whether it's customizable or traditional or any of the other hybrid versions, that's probably something that would be very valuable for you, totally worth the investment. And your customers are going to think, oh my God, this is so beautiful and so helpful. It's going to make you look like a fancy pants graphic designer as well. So that's something to look at. The third resource that I want you to make you aware of is my CSA Membership Academy. And this is the resource library that all of my CSA members get access to. And inside of it is like there's like different chapters. There's one called Veggie University, where every vegetable from A to Z has its own video tutorial and a veggie like e-guide and a cheat sheet. Then there's a section of different video tutorials and cheat sheets for like the cooking techniques and what I call the vegetable exit strategies. There's a vegetable storage guide. There's a canning class for every way you can can stuff, video tutorials for that. There's an Instant Pot course. There's so much stuff in there. Now, not all of it's going to be relevant to you, but if you are a vegetable farmer, you might want to go inside of that academy for a few months, subscribe to it, and access the resources that are in there. Like, why go make your own veggie ebook when there's some in there already for you? So you can subscribe at mydigitalfarmer.com/academy, even if you just go in for the first month and see the table of contents, all the different things that you could teach in the success path would be really helpful for you to help map out and make short work of figuring out what you should teach people about how to cook vegetables and get some ideas. It can either inspire you to go and make your own versions of those resources, or if they're PDF guides, you're welcome to use the PDFs for your farm as long as you're a subscribed member of the academy. So that is something a lot of farmers who listen to this podcast have subscribed to, and it's a way that you can support my work here at Digital Farmer as well. So you can go to mydigitalfarmer.com/academy to read up about what's in there. It's literally like meant for you as a farmer to go in and tap into those resources for your own CSAs. So please make use of it, and it would be so helpful for you. Okay, so those are kind of 3 resources. I'll put all of that stuff into the show notes as well, which you can grab at mydigitalfarmer.com/256. All right. That's all. If you liked today's episode, please go leave me a rating or a review on Apple Podcasts, or you can copy and paste the URL link of this episode and text it to a friend or tell somebody about it in a Facebook group. I would love for more people to know about the show. Don't forget, if you want to get onto my email list, I have some awesome free stuff to send your way to make your marketing better. You can get that at mydigitalfarmer.com/subscribe. I'm also on Instagram at mydigitalfarmer. I show up in stories a few times a week with a marketing tip. Would love to connect with you there. Thanks for joining me today, you guys. Have an awesome week. I believe in you, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.